Hello, this is Benjamin Fulford, pre-recording on May 15th, 2022. I am now in Canada having my annual digital detox, so I've pre-recorded this segment for this week while I'm on leave. Uh, so I'm going to talk about things that are not time sensitive for the next 3 weeks. And today I'm going to talk about what I call my X files, or stuff that I'm not sure what to do with. I have a shelf in my brain where I keep information that doesn't quite fit my worldview. I'm not sure what to do with it, but I probably need to, discuss it at some point. Now, the first time I ran into otherworldly stuff was after the Asian secret societies had approached me, and we had agreed to take on the Western elite who were planning to kill 90% of humanity. Um, the NSA sent out Carrie Cassidy to interview me, and uh, she and her people were into all sorts of tales of secret space program, of aliens, all kinds of stuff that I had never really encountered that much because I've been living very much in this matrix or this world of ours. But it was clear that they viewed that whatever was going on as being far bigger than just about the U.S. Uh, going bankrupt, or about the trade deficit, or about using Japan's money to shape the future of humanity. In other words, when I decided to convince the Japanese to use their $7 trillion that they had earned exporting to the world since World War II to end poverty and stop environmental destruction and explore the universe, apparently I hit some kind of, I'm not sure what to say, a nexus, some kind of Pandora's box opened, and a lot of strange stuff has happened to me since then. I can't bring it all up, but a lot of people started coming to me who had stories that, you know, didn't make sense according to my worldview. So, for example, there's a Japanese gentleman who used to come to my speaking engagements, and he told me that he had been working for years terraforming Mars, and that he went there via a portal. Now, the thing is, other than that story, the man seemed perfectly sane, perfectly rational, normal, functional, but he had these memories. And at the same time, I ran into people who claimed that they came from nearby planetary systems. But otherwise, again, and they said that they had been brought to this planet for some kind of purpose or some kind of mission. Um, and that, you know, they were here for a reason. Now, the same thing happened with this gentleman by the name of Cobra, who talks about all sorts of secret space program type stuff and other things. I met him in person, and he told me that he had personally ridden a vacuum train in a tunnel that would go from London to New York in an hour, and that such a thing existed, but that they had shut down access to these tunnels. Now, that technology, makes sense. If you have a tunnel with a vacuum or a virtual vacuum, there's no air resistance. There's no reason why a train could not travel 3,000 miles an hour. But for some reason, that technology is now being shut to us. So again, I don't know what to make of all this, but clearly, something is being um, held back from us. Now, another person who showed up to see me was sent by I'm not going to mention this guy's name, but he's one of the super big Silicon Valley moguls. Everybody's heard his name, but because he's helped me, I'll keep his name private. But he sent somebody to tell me that, the U.S. space program. If you remember, in the 1960s, they sent the Apollo missions to the moon, and then they were supposed to send people to Mars by 1976 or something, but everything just came to a sudden stop in 1972. And ever since then, if a rocket containing humans tries to go above the ionosphere, they are destroyed. So there's plenty of evidence that we were allowed out into space and then something stopped us. So that's, you can see that. You can check that in the official news. Now, there are a lot of other people came to me again with stories that I just not sure what to make of, but they're, you know, these people are not what you call people with mental health issues. They weren't like schizophrenic or suffering from some kind of other mental disease. So a Adnan Khashoggi, the famous arms dealer, whose son Jamal Khashoggi was butchered at the Saudi embassy in Turkey. He sent a very beautiful Japanese honey trap my way. Now, I say she was a honey trap because she invited me to a house and, you know, stripped herself naked and then offered herself to me. And then suddenly, at the last minute, said no. And I think they were trying to entrap me into some kind of rape type situation to blackmail me. But since she said no, I just stopped. They couldn't do it. But anyway, she later told me that she had been operated on by humanoid beings who were like 11 feet tall and that they'd done stuff to her womb. Okay? So this fits the description of what's known as the Annunaki in ancient Babylon. Now, a member of the Japanese underworld, the Japanese well, I don't like calling them Yakuza because that's a derogatory term, but let's say Ninkyo organization. He also said that he had been operated on and messed with by such entities. And this person also told me that he had what he called a Jewish handler, and he killed this person only to have someone, this person he had killed reappear again a few weeks later. So again, I don't know what to make of this. I'm just putting it out there because there's a lot of stuff going on that just, doesn't make sense. Now, the rabbit hole runs even deeper when I ran into two groups of Illuminati, okay? First was the Gnostic Illuminati. And they sent a man who went by the name of Sasha Zarek, Alexander Romanov, etc. He told me he'd been recruited by the chess champion Bobby Fischer. And their story was that they were founded by the mathematician Pythagoras, but that they went back further to the fall of Atlantis. And what they're saying was that there's this beautiful advanced civilization that got destroyed by some sort of entity, and that they wanted to overthrow this entity because it was malevolent. They recruit geniuses from each generation. So Newton and all sorts of famous people were members of this group who weren't part of the ruling aristocratic bloodlines. And they said their job, they wanted to overthrow the creator of this reality because it was clearly a malign entity. But again, they have these stories. I'm not sure what to make of them, but they say that the Mediterranean Ocean was a river valley and it suddenly got flooded and the civilization was destroyed, and whatever entity was doing that was evil, and they wanted to overthrow it. So again, they're very powerful people. They control a lot of the military and the agencies, and they're still powerful. And I think a lot of the oligarchs you see are members, the ones who aren't part of family groups. So then the Italian Illuminati, and they also called themselves Illuminati, but they were clearly a different group. They sent Leo Zagami out to see me, and he also had some very strange stories, which, according to their version, they were given a plot by off-world beings to control history. That was and they've been doing it for 26,000 years. They said that the planetary movements were used by them, things like full moons, lunar eclipses, solar eclipses, all these kind of planetary alignments were used as a kind of clock to carry out these events to bring history in a certain direction. And they said that the plot they had been given ran out on December 21st, 2012. Now, if you know, that's when the Mayans said the world is supposed to end. And what it means is that, there are various movements, but the planet wobbles very slowly. And it's a 26,000 year phase. And apparently on December 21st, 2012, it changed, and that this is supposed to indicate the beginning of the age of Aquarius, a new era. And that after 2012, the groups of the traditional rulers, the people who had been running the earth according to this plot, were sort of ad-libbing their own script. And one group, the one we're fighting, of course, thinks that they need to kill 90% of humanity and enslave the rest and bring their God King, their Messiah to Earth. These are the people we're fighting. But this is the kind of thing they think. So again, I just put it out there because these are very powerful people. Now, when I went to Italy to meet them, Zagami introduced me to a man by the name of Vincenzo Mazzara, and he said, "This is the most high-ranking person I know." And Mazzara took me to a cathedral in Milan, where he showed me a cross with a snake around it that was in the cathedral. I think you can go to the cathedral and see that. And said, "This is our God." And then he showed a stained glass window of the black sun. And he said, "That's our God. It's the black sun. And it's an alien, and it communicates with us through the gamma rays." Now, after he told me that, okay, this is subjective, but I'm going to let you know. The cathedral disappeared. And I found myself standing what looked like on the edge of a white cloud and staring into a deep black abyss. And it was not just dark, it was like life-sucking. It was like anti-life. And it was like somehow I've been shown the border of life and anti-life. And these people seem to be working for anti-life, for the black sun, and that their belief was that destruction and chaos created light and variety. So this group is the one that also believes that some kind of horrific destruction event, some kind of black hole is going to hit this planet. And anyway, I got the impression that a whole bunch of light came to save me at that time. This is all subjective, but it was very real. And I got the impression that we live in some kind of digital matrix where you have life and anti-life mixing, and they share in common, a wish to have more complex information. But that, again, I don't know what to make of it, except that this is what I ran into. And these are the people. They're very powerful people. They told me they're going to fire Pope Benedict, and they did. And they have a lot of power. There can be no doubt about it. But they also believe in very strange things. So there are other people I ran into who are also quite strange. So, for example, the Chinese or the Asian Red Swastika Society, they took me to a shrine in Ginza where they claimed that, they had a lot of altars made of solid gold. And they claimed that General MacArthur was part of this group and that they were in contact with benevolent aliens. Also, the Dragon family people who I was introduced to by Dr. Michael Vandermeer, who was a cousin of Queen Elizabeth and was apparently at the time head of MI6, told me, if you want to talk to China, this is as high as you can go. And these Dragon family people also told me that they worked with off-world entities. Again, this is all direct reporting. This is not stuff I read in the interview, in the internet. This is stuff I ran into directly. So, there's a lot more going on, but one final thing is some Japanese esoteric types, the three-legged crow society types. Their view is that the planet Earth is about to give birth. Now, that actually makes sense, even if you think of it as a metaphor. We had this before. The Cambrian explosion took place about 530 million years ago. Before that time, the only life you could see on Earth was like a brown sludge or something. It was all microscopic. And suddenly, in like a flash in evolutionary terms, maybe over 10 million years, suddenly all sorts of visible life appeared, a trillion times bigger than what existed before. And there's a lot of views that we are about to have something similar. So think of it, for example, if you have free energy, which is apparently, possible, years of looking into this, things like nuclear fusion and other technologies out there, or virtually free energy, would mean that we could have potentially quadrillions of people. So again, it would be a whole new order of magnitude. And if you want to see another dimension, okay, there's one that you can for sure see by looking up into the night sky, okay? So if you know about the emerald tablet, as is above, so is below, imagine that we're like sitting on a microscopic piece of algae in a pond. And we're looking out with our telescopes and we see, nearby pieces of algae and a rock and things like that. And every once in a while, something we can't explain goes by, like maybe a tadpole that's, a zillion times bigger than us. And we're trying to figure it out. Well, if you look up at the night sky, and I've been able to do this, and you blank your mind, you can see it's like a giant green ocean. So it's almost like we're a tiny little fish that's about to head off into this giant ocean. That's a metaphor, but clearly a lot of stuff that has never happened before is about to happen. However, I know that my viewers and readers are very much into the here now real world type stuff, and so I'm going to conclude with this. When I was 19, I was in a Zen temple, and there was this old professor who had been teaching Buddhism all his life, and he'd retired to the temple. And I was telling him, this is all Maya, this is an illusion, stuff like that. And he said to me, how old are you? He says, I'm 19. He says, look, you're here for a purpose, okay? And this is the sort of stuff you look into when you're like me, when you're about to die. You're here for a reason. And I believe we're all here in this very three-dimensional, real Earth of the 21st century for a purpose. That we have some kind of key to unlock. And I believe that, all these fantastical things will come visible only if we solve the problem in this reality that we're in now. That means if we end poverty, stop environmental destruction, end war, and come up with some kind of harmonious system for, sharing the planet and moving into the future, then a lot of these mysterious things will be revealed to everybody. So, the reason I don't normally talk about this stuff is because even though I've experienced it, it just doesn't seem to fit with the day-to-day reality I experience, and I'm not sure what to do with it, but I do believe that this planet is like some sort of 3D puzzle, and if we solve it, we will have a new Cambrian explosion type event. And that's what we're fighting for in the long run. We want to turn this place into heaven, into paradise. We want to be immortal. We want to be uh, exploring new worlds. All that is something that we're aiming for, and let's make it happen. But we need to do that by focusing on the here and now real world, because that is for sure is the key. Because no matter how far you astral travel, you always end up back on this planet in this reality. So this is where we must fight. Okay, thanks. That's what I have to say now. I'll take some questions that were sent in by people, who are interested in these kind of stuff, and I never answered until now. So do you mind asking me the questions now, please?
Absolutely. Our first question here. What do you determine to be the Matrix, or what is the Matrix?
Okay, The Matrix. Well, it's the title of a very good movie, but my understanding is that the Matrix is the idea that this reality is some kind of digital simulation. So when people have the worldview that we're living in a digital simulation, and that everything we experience is some kind of projection or some kind of hologram, and that it can be altered, I believe that may well be what it is. I mean, uh, a fundamental question in philosophy is, why does anything exist at all? And the answer is, you can't have nothing unless you have something to contrast it with. That's why Lao Tzu said, you got to have the yin and the yang. So in that case, it is digital. And so if we can solve this digital puzzle, then we may have access to the source code of reality, and we can start changing reality in ways that we wish. That's what I believe. So the matrix is an idea that everything we experience is some kind of digital construct, and that we want to get control of that construct and make it, work for the benefit of Earth life. Next question.
Do you believe in a secret space force? And if you do, how would you define it? What is it?
Okay. Again, I'll start with stuff that I personally experienced. I met a very senior Japanese industrialist who introduced me to a Japanese weapons developer. Now, he told me he had ridden a Nazi flying saucer, an anti-gravity device, in Manchuria towards the end of World War II. And there's plenty of evidence that anti-gravity technology was discovered by the Germans towards the end of World War II. The people in Area 51 are very definitely the heirs of these Nazi scientists, and the anti-gravity devices allow people to travel into space. And I've run into a lot of people who said they have done this, but the story was that they expanded out into the universe and then were stopped and told that they had something to do. They had unfinished business back on their home planet. Now, again, all this kind of stuff, it's hard to know what to do with it, because it doesn't really affect our real daily lives. If you look up into the sky, you will see over time unidentified flying objects. But for sure, if they exist, they can be found now at the Thule Air Base in Greenland, and I'm going to try to get myself over there. I've also heard that there's stuff in Antarctica, and then, of course, there was an Area 51 in Nevada, but apparently they evacuated because it was under too much scrutiny. But I'm going to try to actually go and see this stuff for myself, and I've been trying to convince the people, and I do have contacts with the secret space program, to bring this technology out into public and share it with the rest of humanity. So we'll see, but there's definitely a group of humans who have discovered anti-gravity, which should allow us to explore space, and they've been hiding from us, and I'm hopeful they will come out of the closet soon. But there is definitely a secret space program. I mean, look at, for example, what Donald Rumsfeld, the U.S. Secretary of Defense, said right after 9/11. He said that, $2.3 trillion had disappeared from the budget, the Pentagon budget. Well, that's, their budget's supposed to be 700 billion. So what's that about? And other people have figured out that about $20 trillion has gone missing. So that's gone to develop something, and that's probably the secret space force. And if it's us taxpayers who paid for it, then I think we should start sharing the benefits of what we paid for. But that's my understanding. So there is a secret space program. They do have anti-gravity, that much for sure. And for some reason, we're not allowed to have it, but hopefully we will be soon. Okay, next question.
Our last question for today. How would you define the multiverse, and does it exist?
Okay, the idea is that this reality is one of an infinite amount of varieties of realities. So, for example, there may be a reality that's so similar to this one that the only difference is I'm wearing a red shirt instead of a blue shirt. Or maybe there's a reality where I'm having a conversation similar to this one, but I'm some kind of octopus-like being in the bottom of an alien ocean. So I met people who claim that they travel between similar dimensions, similar realities, where there's just slight differences. And, the story is that our particular reality is reality C-558. Okay, this came to me one day, but anyway, so the idea is that there's a lot of similar realities, and that there are people who travel between them. These are what you could call X-Men type folks. And I've run into people who claim that they do this, that they've run into different similar versions. I think this was introduced in one of the Men in Black movies, this sort of concept. But again, it seems that we're heading towards some sort of event that will affect the entire multiverse. So each reality that's similar, if they exist, is going to experience some kind of change. So that we're going through some kind of event that is extremely rare, if not unprecedented, in this universe. But again, at the end of the day, I and you, my viewers, as far as I know, are stuck in reality C-558, planet Earth of the 21st century, and that's where we must fight our battle. So to conclude, I find all this stuff fascinating. I study it, but at the end of the day, it does not really affect our day-to-day life at present. So I'll keep studying this stuff, and from time to time I'll share what I find out. But the reason I stick to normally, except when, like now when I'm on holiday, to geopolitics, is because that's where the battle's going to be won. And all this fantastical stuff, if it becomes part of our daily lives, then great. I hope it happens. But in the meantime, while we keep looking at this stuff and monitoring it, we need to win the battle here on Earth in the here now reality that we all experience and share. The shared reality is where the battle will be won. Okay, thanks for listening. There'll be 2 more pre-recorded podcasts, and then we'll be back to the current geopolitical news and updates related to that. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.